up, guys?
And welcome to a very special Halloween edition of Retro Game Lounge, where Chuck and I are going to be counting down our personal top 5 favorite Halloween-themed games. For this one, when we got together to make the list, we basically had to pick a time scale from which to pick games from, because there's a lot of really great Halloween-themed games in the present, for Xbox 360, PlayStation 3, etc., and even, going back to PlayStation 1 and PlayStation 2. So we thought we would pick from the category of games that we kind of grew up with fondly, what we will refer to as the golden age of home video gaming. In this particular case, basically from original NES all the way to Super NES. So that's like a 7 or 8 year period during the heyday of those two systems that we will pick our top 5 games from. On a side note, guys, this list that we have here is by no means the definitive list. This is just our personal opinion as far as what we feel are the best 5 Halloween-themed games from the era of video gaming that we grew up in. So feel free to submit a video showing your list and your favorites. What can we say about Friday the 13th, the game? By no means a great game. I don't think either of us would try and argue that. It's definitely not a great game by any stretch. The particular reason that I felt that this one should be on the list is because I remember renting this game initially from Blockbuster back when I was a kid, and I just remember the title screen of this just scaring the bejesus out of me when I was, I was probably 8 or 9 years old, something like that, when I got it, with the knife, going through the mask and like playing the game, like, when Jason shows up, it would genuinely terrify me. Like, I was scared to death of this because the movie scared me so bad when I saw the first one. Like, I had nightmares not to be believed. And again, by no means a great game. I mean, it's honestly a fucking terrible game. It's so flawed, but I just feel it should be on the list because it kind of scared my childhood. Like, it's the first video game that I remember that actually terrified me.
This game will hurt your feelings. It will crush your soul.
Why?
Because everything about it is just kind of bullshit and garbage. It has a map system. That's cool. You take 2 steps and you're halfway across the map.
Yeah, I know.
That doesn't make sense.
That's
like there's no distance. There's no distance at all.
Yeah.
There's fucking zombies in the game.
Why are zombies in a Friday the 13th game?
I don't understand. I could understand if maybe there was one, like, mother zombie, but there's zombies all over the fucking game.
I mean, why would you go to a camp like this that has zombies, has, like, killer birds, like, wolves that chase you, and on top of that, it's got a fucking psychotic serial killer wearing a hockey mask? Like, what kid would want to go there, and what counselor would want to fucking work there?
Seriously.
You'd have to be insane. Alright, you remember when you're in the rowboat, and sometimes Jason will come?
Oh, yeah.
Get you. Alright, is it me, or did that remind you of fucking Jaws?
No, it was Jaws. It was totally Jaws. But he's really fast. He's like a fucking...
Yeah.
No, he's fast. Like, he comes cruising through the fucking water. He's almost like a torpedo. He's just... like, when you get there, you'll understand what I'm talking about.
You have no defense. He's just like...
No, he's just gonna fuck you up. That's all there is to it.
Yeah. It's pretty bad. And when you go and the fighting sequences when you face him in the cabin, what did that remind you of?
Oh, you turn into Little Joe, Little Mac, what was his name?
It's Punch Out.
It is fucking Punch Out.
It really
is Punch Out.
I mean, even like ducks and bobs and weaves and shit, it really looks like Punch Out.
But not as good.
Not nearly as good. And definitely hurting. But honestly, like, other than like the scare factor that I remember from my kids, like the part that I find creepy to this day is that when you find the little kids in the cabin, like the whole premise of the game is like the Jason alarm goes off, like somehow you're telepathically linked to these fucking kids or something. And you gotta usually go halfway around this camp, which is the size of fucking Wyoming, to get to the kids. And when you get there, the kids have no faces.
No faces.
It's fucking weird. It's like they're aliens or something like that. And they're just standing there like fucking...
They're Blair Witching on
like,
the wall. They're
no
just chilling.
face and shit, just like looking at you. Oh my god, it's terrifying to look at. It really is. That kind of creeps me out even as an adult. Okay, so it's like we're going from one extreme to the other one on this particular game. Zombies Ate My Neighbors. Okay, so we're going from a very bad game to a very good game, to one that I absolutely remember fondly from the Super Nintendo era. I'll be honest with you guys, if I had to pick one game from the Super Nintendo era, if I could only have one, this would probably be it. like of one game that I remember the most fondly from that era of games, for several reasons. Number one, the title screen. The title screen in this game is fucking legendary, man. It's just so perfectly sets up the mood for the game that you're about to play, because it's kind of zany and spooky, and the whole game is like a love letter to fans of like 50s and 60s B horror movies. You know, like Them, or, you know, Giant Ants and shit like that, or, you know, Earth versus the Spider, or the, you know, I Was a Teenage Werewolf, you know, just random stuff like that. This game really takes you and throws you into this world where every single B-movie monster is real. I mean, everything from vampires to werewolves to Frankenstein to the Mummy to zombies to the creature from the Black Lagoon to the Blob, to Chucky. I mean, this literally has everything. You know, it's like you're thrown into Hollywood horror land and left to survive. And I think the reason I remember this game the most fondly was because of the weapons. You're playing two kids, you're not playing two adults. You're playing Zeke and Julie. And just as a record, guys, Zeke looked like me when I'm like 11 years old. Like with the hair up and shit and the 3D glasses. Oh, I was Zeke one year for Halloween. It was awesome. So I think the reason I connect with it so much is the weapons were things that would have been available to kids during that age. So, I mean, you've got your basic weapon is the squirt gun. So, you know, you see it in the game, it's like, dude, I could go out and stop the fucking zombie apocalypse with like my super soaker. Like, this is rad. You know, soda cans, like popsicles. I mean, I guess the bazooka, I guess, probably wouldn't be available to kids. But, you know, plates, silver, you know, the silverware works against werewolves. The plates, they're flying saucers, you use them against the Martians, the football. I mean, other than the supernatural weapons, like the Pandora's box and stuff, all these things were like regular, everyday items, which made this so easily identifiable to kids. You know, like, oh, dude, I can totally get into that, man. This is really cool. So, and honestly, this wouldn't... We couldn't do this list here on Retro Game Lounge if we didn't do at least one co-op game.
Oh, it's pretty much Monster Squad meets Gauntlet.
Yes, it absolutely is. It's just a love letter to anyone who loves that particular genre of movies, like the sci-fi, goofy, kind of campy horror stuff. If you're into that, you will absolutely love this game. They did make a sequel to this that I never really got a chance to own because I didn't know it came out when I was a kid, called Ghoul Patrol. I think I remember reading about it in Nintendo Power, but I don't remember actually seeing it for sale. One of these days I'll have to play it. I've heard it's not all that good, but, you know, being a Zombies Ate My Neighbors fan, eventually I'm just going to have to play it.
Alright, one of the cool things about this game is it actually helps you figure out the character of your friend. What I mean by that, it's almost like Monopoly. You're going to find out just how close you are with that friend. Because everything in the co-op, you have to work together. But there's bonuses for saving people, for getting different items, for weapons. You're going to find out if in a zombie apocalypse, say, my good buddy Fox is going to be like, fuck you, I'm getting that gun, and you're just ass out, you know. You got the slingshot, do your thing. I'm going to rock the bazooka. So you're going to find out real quick. You're going to find out.
And, like, you have to share the same screen because it's not split screen.
Yes, yep.
So sometimes you're fighting for space, and you can, if you're not coordinated enough, you know, you're not working enough as a team, since part of the maps are like mazes and things like that, like one guy can get stuck, you know, because the other guy's in another corner and stuff, and you really have to work together, otherwise you're just not going to make it.
Yeah, so if you're not a cohesive team, yeah, you're probably not going to make it.
That, and it even has tremors in it. I mean, they call them, I think they call them snakeoids in the game. Like, there's a level like Attack of the Snakeoids, and it's so obvious who they were drawing it from. I remember Tremors was one of my favorite movies from
And they called them Graboids.
Yeah, they called them Graboids, but the first name for them was Snakeoids.
Yes. Oh,
So,
I thought it was Graboids.
Yeah, they started out with Snakeoids. Like, what about Snakeoids? Graboids, you know?
Gotcha.
So,
okay.
I loved that movie back then, and to see that in a video game was like, I was like, this is the coolest thing I've ever seen. I mean, how could we do a Halloween-themed game list that includes Nintendo and not include Castlevania?
Can't do it.
I mean, it was just...
Can't do it.
This was such an... I mean, do you remember the first time that you played Castlevania?
Yes.
Or the first time that you actually watched it or saw it?
Yes.
I specifically remember exactly where I was. I was at this kid who lived across the street from me before I had a Nintendo. I went over to his house to play, and he had Castlevania, and he had told me about it. I was like, what's Castlevania? I was like, do you mean Transylvania? He's like, no, Castlevania. I was like, oh, okay. And we went downstairs to his basement to play it. And I remember from the second he put that in, just to watch the intro, you know, where you're walking up to the gate, and what looked to me, I think was supposed to be a cloud in the beginning, go over the mood. He used to be like, yeah, it's like a witch going in front of the moon. I was like, whoa! And just the fact that you're going into this castle, like, to fight, you know, he showed me the cover where you're fighting Dracula. I was like, this is the coolest idea for a game I've ever seen. Like, that just blew my fucking mind. That there was actually a game like that. I was like, they actually have games like that? Because I was coming out of Atari. You know, just, this was my first kind of foray into the Nintendo era. I was like, this is amazing. And the fact that you've got a whip and stuff like that, and the music is just freaking awesome. I mean, it just grabs you right from the beginning. So basically what Castlevania is if you had to take the classic Universal Studios monsters, you know, the classic movies from the 30s and 40s, and put them in a game. That's essentially what Castlevania is. It's kind of a love letter to fans of that stuff. I mean, you're fighting everyone from, you know, Frankenstein and Igor, the little hunchback dude, to the Mummy. There's references to a creature from the Black Lagoon. And I mean, ultimately you're fighting Dracula. And I don't know about you, man, but like the first time I actually tried to fight Dracula, and I never really got there as a young kid. I think the furthest I got was the Grim Reaper, which is the guy before Dracula. The Dracula fight, even to this day, is difficult. Like, if you don't do it all the time. Like, could I do it as an adult? Yes, but it would probably take me a few tries to get it right, because you've got to get everything perfect. You know, because you beat him once, and then he does this transformation thing where he's the giant bat and shit. Then you got to do it again. You know, and it's a pain in the ass. You know, because it's like an endurance test. I mean, a lot of the reason that people say that games are NES hard is because there are so many games from that era that actually were really fucking hard and are still hard to this day.
There's another one on this list.
Yeah, there definitely is. So.
The first time I saw Castlevania was my good friend Jamie. He bought it, he was playing it, I walked into his house, and I couldn't believe what I was seeing on the screen. As a monster movie fan, this was just like the greatest thing I'd seen. And then I played it. And as much as I love that game, the difficulty of it, to this day, drives me fucking crazy. Like, if you told me I had to beat that in 4 or 5 hours, I don't know if I could do it. I think I'd probably end up breaking all the controllers.
It's definitely one of the games that makes you throw the controller down. Like, even as a adult, where you're just like, fuck it, you know, and you just get so upset that the game is just so unrelentingly difficult at certain points. And like, you know, you lose all your damn health and you get to the boss and there's no health progress, and you're like, fuck, and then you gotta fight the damn boss. And some of them are just an absolute pain in the ass. Like, some of them, like the Mummy, there's a method to it. Frankenstein, there's a method to it. The Grim Reaper, it's like, it comes down to skill.
Yeah.
Like, you just, when he's throwing the fucking sickles and scythes at you and shit like that, like, you gotta be ready on the spot ready. So, you know, even if you are skilled at Castlevania, this is still one of those games that even, you know, thousands of games that we played later still put your gaming skills to the test.
People have asked me where my legendary rage of gaming comes from. I believe that this might have been the actual start.
Oh, is that what it is?
I believe Castlevania might have been the start of that.
I can understand that. I mean, it's just, I think the reason that you get so upset at games like this is because you want to see them finished.
Yes.
Like, you actually enjoy the game in and of itself. It's just there's aspects of it that annoy the piss out of you. And guys, you got to understand that, especially to the younger viewers out there, guys, the internet didn't exist back then. Like, you couldn't look up the ending of the game, you couldn't look up hints and tricks, and you had no way of knowing, you know, what was at the end of this. I mean, basically, if it wasn't in Nintendo Power, where you just got to see, like, single pictures of it, or you didn't see a friend do it, you didn't know what it was. Like, all you knew is that you were going to face trap, but you didn't know what he looked like, you know, what to do. I mean, you had no preparation for this whatsoever. So you're just going into this fucking blind.
And up next, we have Ghosts and Goblins.
Yeah, okay. I don't really want to speak too poorly about a Capcom game because they've definitely got a very impressive streak of hits. I mean, you really are very hard pressed to find a bad Capcom game. But while this one isn't really a bad game, it's definitely not perfect, but it is infuriatingly hard. I mean, this game is the definition of NES hard. I mean, just the simple fact that you literally get hit twice, once to knock your armor off and the next one you're dead. 2 hits and you are dead. That's it.
That's it.
And it's just like I've got this one. I was kind of hesitant to put on the list just because it's so I like my memories for this from childhood are just rage. Mm-hmm. Like I just remember how angry as fuck I got at this game because it was so difficult for a little kid. But I think it does deserve to be on the list just because of the subject matter. I mean, you've got obviously you got ghosts and goblins, you've got zombies, devils, little vampire thingies, bats, just it definitely fits the kind of the mood of Halloween, albeit wrapped up in an incredibly controller-breaking, rage-inducing package.
Yeah, this is also another one of those games that just made me a little 9-year-old freak. Like, I would just get so angry at this game. And this one really hurt my feelings. When I thought I beat it, and then you have to beat it again.
Yeah.
Are you fucking kidding me?
Like your quest isn't even
Are you kidding me?
To get the
when you finally beat that, like you are thinking you are the king of the world.
Yeah.
King of the world. And it's like, oh. What did it say? It was like an illusion or some shit?
Yeah.
Or trying to get, Are you fucking kidding me?
It's bad.
But it's also one of my favorites. I actually really love this game, but it's fuck your face hard.
It really is.
Like, that's all there is to it. Like, you will enjoy it, have fun, but it's annoyingly hard. You gotta love a game that starts off where the guy's boning some chick in the cemetery.
I know, like, why... He's basically, like, wearing his underwear, and they're having a date in a cemetery. Like, that's like the musings of a fucking serial killer or something like that. Like, this guy's a ghoul. He's hanging out in a cemetery like, hey, baby, sitting there in his banana hammock and shit. And then, she gets captured by this little devil fucker. And then he's like, well, I better put my armor on and go get it. It's like, no, you better put some fucking clothes on, dude. I mean, seriously. The guy's sitting there, like, doing, like, a freaking underwear shoot. Or something like that. He's like, hey, check it out. Check out my new hands.
He's Calvin Klein all over the fucking countryside with his lance and knife.
And I don't know about you, but I remember even as a child thinking that was strange.
Well, yeah, it's really
like I was like, why isn't he wearing clothes? Like, I mean, honestly, on the same token though, it would be kind of weird if he was on a date with her and he was still wearing his armor. Like, he'd be like a pretentious asshole, to do that. He'd be like, well, I'm going in my armor,
Well, like, either way is not good. I mean, at least with armor, it's like, I'm your knight in shining armor. At least you can go that route. But it's like, hey, I'm naked in my banana hammock. What's up? Like, I don't even know. It just works.
Alright, so lastly we have Splatterhouse. Oh my god, was this game incredible. I remember, first of all guys, I'm one of the few people in the world who actually had a TurboGrafx 16 when he was young. I remember I got it, I think it was Christmas of 1989 when it first came out, and when I first got it, I was the only kid I knew that had one. Like, I was the most popular kid in school because everyone else had like a Nintendo. This is before Sega Genesis, this was the first 16-bit system. So everyone else either had like Sega Master System or a Nintendo, and I was the only kid. I was like, yeah, I've got 16-bit power. I'm beyond all that Nintendo crap. Walking a little bit taller. And the first I'd heard of Splatterhouse, I was a subscriber to TurboGrafx 16's magazine that they called Turbo Play, which is like their version of Nintendo Power. And I remember reading about Splatterhouse, where they had like a detailed, 5 or 6 page little expose on it. And, they had, like, all kinds of vivid artwork and stuff like that, and they showed, like, the main character, Rick, in the mask. For some reason, he was holding a gun, like a pistol. I was like, whoa, damn, that's cool. And every time they would show, the photographs of the game, he had a white mask. He literally looks like Jason Voorhees from the movies, not like the fucking crappy Friday the 13th game Jason Voorhees where he's purple and shit. This one actually looked like the actual character from the movie, but you're playing him, and he's, like, the hero. So I was like, this is weird. Like, he's supposed to be the bad guy, but I was like, this is fucking cool. And I just remember seeing, it was breaking down like the baddies, the guts and shit going all over the place, and it was like the most violent video game I'd ever seen. I was like, oh my god, I don't even know if my parents are gonna buy this for me. And just the name, like Splatterhouse. I mean, it's like they're not leaving anything to the imagination. Like, this is the house where shit goes down, like guts, death, destruction, just shit getting fucked up. And the first time that I bought this game, this was way later into the period where I had my first TurboGrafx 16. The first time, the time that I was actually able to buy it was at this place called Starland, which actually still exists today, guys. This was before GameStop. This is before even FuncoLand. Starland kind of started, at least on the East Coast, the used games market. Like back then, that was like a revolutionary thing that you could go in there and buy used games, and they would also fix systems for you. Like at one point, my NES broke down, and we took it to them, and they actually fixed it. I think it probably just had the 72-pin connector issue that all NESs fail at some point. But I remember I went into the store, and they had like a little glass display case, and they had all the TurboGrafx games. And I remember they had Splatterhouse, and I think it was like $20 used, and that was literally every cent that I had to my name at that point. All my lawnmower, lawn mowing money and stuff like that. And I bought it and I took it home, and I just remember being so thrilled to play this game. It was like it just blew my freaking mind. And the one thing that I think that stands out is the pause noise. That is like the creepiest pause noise ever, but it's also so fitting for the games. It almost reminded me of like the music from Psycho.
Yeah.
Ching, ching, ching. And I was like, oh my god, that's creepy. But it scared me, and I thought it was cool at the same time. I invited all my friends over, and we'd sit there and play, and they just thought it was fucking amazing. And it was so different from anything on any other system that I've had. They did put out 2 sequels, Splatterhouse 2 and Splatterhouse 3, that were on Sega Genesis. But in my opinion, guys, the first one is still the best one. And it's slightly different from the arcade version on the TurboGrafx, but the TurboGrafx 16 is the only system that has the original Splatterhouse. It was not released on any other console. And if you ask me, man, that's probably the best TurboGrafx 16 game ever made.
One of the things I love about this game, and many games of its like in this genre and in this time frame, is the fact that there wasn't any motivation necessary other than you took my girl, for you to have free reign to just fuck shit up.
Mm-hmm.
That's all that you needed. Double Dragon, hell, neither of them were even dating a chick, but they went and fucked shit up. And then you have to fight for her at the end.
Yeah.
Are you kidding? You have to fight each other for this chick.
Mm-hmm.
Commando, Rambo, Zelda, Mario.
Yeah.
You took my bitch, I'm gonna fuck you up.
Yeah.
That's what I love about this. And this took it to the extreme. It was like, you took my girl, now I'm gonna dismember you.
Yeah.
And really, unless you read the little instruction booklet or whatever, there was no fucking story.
Yeah,
it was.
That's literally where you got the story.
That's where you get it. Because if you start the game, it's 2 people walk into a building. Ooh, it's rainy and cold.
Actually, you don't even see that much, but
yeah, I mean, and then
it starts out with the house, and then you just wake up and like you have no idea what was going on.
You're Jason fucking Voorhees,
yeah.
Which is kind of awesome.
Yeah,
I mean, awesome. You now know what it's like to be Jason.
Pretty much.
I mean, the blood fuels him. That's awesome.
I know. I mean, the place that I got the information for all this story was that Turbo Play magazine, where they broke it down and they actually, had a narrative. They told you what the Terror Mask is, which is the mask that he wears. It gives him powers and shit. And just, the whole story with, it's Dr. West's mansion. They're 2, I think they're college students or something like that, going there to interview him and shit. And without these old school books, basically, you would have absolutely no idea what the story is. You wouldn't, and the same thing could be said like Castlevania or Ghosts and Goblins or anything. Unless you did the homework and read the instruction manual, you wouldn't know what's going on.
No clue.
And I'll be honest with you, man, that's something that I almost kind of miss from video games these days. I mean, it's kind of cool that when you play a video game, it's almost like watching a movie. And modern video games, that they tell you the story,
right.
Like you're a part of the story. But I almost miss sitting down, when you crack a Nintendo game and reading the instruction manual. I don't know if you did this, but I read the instruction manual before I played the game.
Oh, I did.
I was that much of a nerd. But mainly because I wanted to read the story. Like, it showed you the breakdown of the bad guys and stuff like that. And I just thought that was the coolest thing, because it was like, you get like a little, like a warm-up or a prequel to the game. you get all the facts and stuff, how strong the enemies are, the backstory and everything. And when you're done with that, you go, dude, I'm fucking ready to play this game, man. Like, let's do this. Like, I got the information, I'm ready to take on this game. And it made the game experience like so much more enriching.
Right.
At least in my book, is that they have these very, very detailed stories and things like that. It's just I wish that games these days did that, to a degree. Well, I guess that wraps up the top 5 here on Retro Game Lounge for our top 5 Halloween-themed retro classics. We encourage all of you out there, guys, if you've got your own top 5, go ahead and submit it, man. Put up a video. That's the beauty of YouTube, is that everyone gets to have a vote. Everyone gets to have an opinion. We'd certainly love to see them. This is just the 5 that we picked from one particular era of games. You can pick the same. You can pick 5 games from the PlayStation era, or the N64 era, or even the modern Xbox 360 era. Each era is going to have its best. This is just what we feel were the 5 best given the genre. So I don't know about you, man, but I've had a really good time. Just regaling everybody with these stories from a couple of old school gamers like this, man, and just reliving that golden age of video games that I don't know about you, but I'll remember fondly.
Oh yeah.
Forever. This is good stuff. So I want to thank everyone so much for stopping by, and as always on Retro Game Lounge, we're not running out of games
or time to play them.
So thanks for stopping by, guys, and we'll see you next time.